The fat you can't see, visceral fat, cortisol, and how everything connects. After 40, you can't pinch it. You can't see it in the mirror. It doesn't show up on a standard scale. But visceral fat, stored deep inside your abdominal cavity, wrapped around your organs, is arguably the most metabolically dangerous tissue in your body. And after 40, it accumulates faster and hides more effectively than anything else. Hi, I'm Marty, a NASME CPT. If you've been following this series, today is where everything connects. Zone 2 cardio, your wearable data, mobility and yoga, stress, sleep, they all tie directly to this one tissue. Let me show you how. About 90% of your body fat is subcutaneous, the kind just beneath the skin. The remaining 10%, under normal circumstances, is visceral fat. Unlike subcutaneous fat, it is metabolically active. It secretes inflammatory compounds, disrupts insulin signaling, and sits in direct contact with your organ blood supply. A 2024 analysis of over 43,000 adults, followed for more than 9 years, found that those with the highest visceral fat levels had a 68% higher risk of premature death compared to those with the lowest. For women, that number was 136%. Estimated life expectancy at age 40 was more than 2 years shorter in the highest group. 2 years of life expectancy. From a tissue most people have never thought about. It also drives metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, and, a 2024 meta-analysis found, significantly increased risk of cognitive impairment in older adults. This is not a peripheral concern. Here is the part most people have never heard. Visceral fat is uniquely sensitive to cortisol. Unlike subcutaneous fat, visceral fat has a dramatically higher density of cortisol receptors. When cortisol is chronically elevated from work stress, poor sleep, overtraining, or just sustained life pressure, your body actively redirects fat storage into the visceral compartment. Not subcutaneous, visceral. A 2025 review confirmed the mechanism. Chronic glucocorticoid elevation expands visceral adipose tissue by relocating fat storage from your arms and legs to your organs. The cruel part, people under chronic stress can be losing visible fat while accumulating visceral fat simultaneously. The scale looks fine. The mirror looks fine. The metabolically dangerous tissue is growing, and the loop is self-reinforcing. Stress raises cortisol. Cortisol builds visceral fat. Visceral fat drives inflammation. Inflammation disrupts sleep. Poor sleep raises cortisol. And cortisol suppresses HRV, the metric on your wearable that started flagging the problem before you felt it. If your HRV has been trending down for weeks with no obvious training cause, and your resting heart rate is creeping up, this loop is one explanation worth examining. Here is where the last 5 weeks of work in this series pay off. Zone 2 cardio. A meta-analysis of 84 randomized controlled trials confirmed that moderate to vigorous aerobic exercise significantly reduces visceral fat. Combined with resistance training, the research shows a 7% reduction in visceral fat area. Not subcutaneous, visceral, the specific tissue we are targeting. Yoga and breathwork. At the molecular level, yoga activates the parasympathetic nervous system and measurably reduces cortisol production, directly countering the primary hormonal driver of visceral fat accumulation. The 10-minute mobility flow and the twice-weekly yoga are not just about your squat depth. They are regulating the hormonal environment that determines where your body stores fat. Sleep. Poor sleep raises cortisol, increases appetite hormones, and is directly associated with greater central adiposity. Every element of recovery work we have built together has a visceral fat stake attached to it. The action plan is mostly already built. Zone 2. Strength training, mobility and yoga, sleep, wearable monitoring. Managing stress as a training variable, not a background condition. The piece most people are missing is the last one. Exercise gets all the attention. The cortisol-visceral fat loop gets almost none. After 40, that is where a significant portion of the battle is won or lost. Measure your waist circumference today, at the navel, first thing in the morning. Record it. Watch the trend over months of consistent work. That number, moving in the right direction, is one of the most meaningful health improvements you can make. Full article with all references in this week's Substack. Link in the description. Subscribe for a new research-backed fitness article every Monday.